Welcome to my workshop. My name is Tomasz and you're watching Casual DIY channel. In today's video, I'm going to be trying to make a jig to accommodate my router so I can use it with conjunction with a track from my track saw. This will greatly increase the speed for me to do some dado work, anything like that. And to be fair, I do have quite a few of these tracks, so I can go from 30 centimeters right up to 2 meters if I need to. So it would be absolutely perfect to have the ability to use these tracks so I can make some dados or any grooves I need in my upcoming projects, so I can utilize my router with it. So let's have a go at it. Now my tracks actually do come with these metal joining bars, okay? So underneath these tracks you've got slots where these bars go into, okay? And you've got M6, I believe, screws that lock these in place and they connect two tracks. Now we're going to utilize a pair of these to actually create an edge. So at the edge just over here, I know that's at 90 degrees to the side. They are machined, so that will be a perfect 90 there. So what I want to do, add a plywood shelf here, a plywood 90 degrees edge here, so we can butt this against our work, and at every single time we'll be absolutely certain that this track is at 90 degrees and we can have a straight line. The plywood I'm using, it's 10 millimeters in thickness. Right then, so the metal connectors will actually take M6 bolts, and that's how I'm going to attach the piece of plywood we've just cut out, okay? So what we're going to do, I want the hole contraction for the router to be on this side where you've got these aluminium profiles here, okay? So what we're going to do, I'm just going to establish where exactly I need to pre-drill the holes for the bolts themselves. Now we're going to head over to my pillar drill to make the holes. First of all, on the underneath side of this plywood sheet, I'm just going to be using my 12mm Forstner bit to create a slot for the screw head to go into, so it's flush with the plywood itself. Now I have installed a 6mm drill bit to make a hole for the bolt itself. So we should have something like this. Two holes and recessed ones on this side, so the bolts go like that. Okay, and now we can attach these. Now these do screw in, as you've seen. However, with the vibrations from the router itself or just knocking this jig about, there's always a potential for them to undo themselves. So I'm going to use some star knobs just to make sure they're not going to go anywhere. Now we need to butt the track against our edge and lock the pins themselves to make sure we've got a nice and stable connection. So that's nice and stable. Obviously, you know, I can change this to the longer track or anything else, you know, it's all interchangeable. It all fits different sizes of tracks I've got, so that's absolutely perfect. Now it seems I've got a very nice connection here. There's no gaps in between the track and the plywood sheet, so that should indicate I've got 90 degrees here. However, I'm just gonna double check that. Yeah, absolutely perfect, 90 degrees. For the carriage for my router, I'm going to be using 12mm MDF board and 6mm plywood. So it's a very simple process of cutting all the parts out and then putting everything together. Okay then, so I've got 2 pieces of MDF. That will be the base for our router. I've got a piece of plywood that's 6 mm in thickness. However, the channel, the depth is 7 mm. But I want that to be that 1 mm less, so it, you know, it works and it slides a lot better and it doesn't tilt or rock in any way. Okay, so that will go inside the channel just like so, and that will connect both of the pieces. Now, as I mentioned, that's 1 mm shallower, so I'm going to put some washers to raise this a bit to the perfect level, just like so. I'm going to be using some CA glue to bond this together, and obviously some wood glue as well to have a stronger connection. Later on, we'll reinforce the whole thing. And I'm going to put some weight on top of it and let it cure. Now, after building the sled for the router, it came to light that the star knobs were in the way of the sled. So yes, I will get rid of the knobs and the securing knobs, plus I'm cutting the bolts to the right size so they are flush with the metal rods themselves. And now I'm just going to add a few screws to the carriage itself, so all the pieces are connected together correctly. Okay, now I'm going to take the plastic cover from the plunge router base. Got 4 screws, going to take that off. I'm going to mark the holes on my plywood piece. Thanks to that, I will be able to attach my router to the sled itself. And now, as you can see, I'm just attaching the sled to the plunge base of my router. In the end, to be fair, I only went with 2 screws, 2 bolts, as there was no need for any more. Just giving the base a quick sand, so there's no issues there. Plus I'm gonna apply 1 coat of wax for easy movement. Okay, next thing is to make a hole for the router bits in the MDF board. I'm just gonna use a straight bit to highlight where the middle is, and after that I'm just gonna use a hole saw to cut out the hole. Okay, let's do some testing. I'm just going to put a line on this piece of chipboard, and that's where I want the groove to go through. Now on the base of my router, I do have indicators where the middle of the cut will be, so I can marry that up with the line on the chipboard. Alright then, so let's have a go at this. Let's see how easy it will be to set up. Remember, we've got 90 degrees here between the base and the aluminium profile, so that's easy and simple. We can put our sled with the router, and we need to marry up the indicator on the plunge base and with the line that we put on our material. Okay, so that's pretty simple to do. Remember, the whole track will be at 90 degrees to our board, so that's not issue at all. So it should be very easy to set this up. In this case, I'm actually not going to put any clamps or anything on this at all. As you know, the tracks themselves, they've got special materials, anti-slip ones, plus we've got the 90 degrees that is holding the track to our material at 90 degrees. So I'm just putting pressure with my left hand side on the track itself to make sure it's pressing against the material I'm actually cutting in. That will give enough pressure for the whole thing to work correctly. As long as you're not pushing the router too hard, everything should work just fine. Now just a quick check to make sure everything's at 90 degrees, and tell you what, absolutely bob on. Now I'm just going to change the tracks. I'm just going to choose the longer one, as I've got a board that's a little bit wider and I want to make the cuts in that. So see how easy it is, so simple, so quick, no issues at all with changing the tracks. And obviously it's the same thing with adding extra lengths to the track itself. As you can see, setting the jig up is super simple, really easy to do thanks to that 90 degree ledge. very easy to do. On top of this time I'm actually going to add a clamp to hold everything together, so I can attach the clamp to the material I'm going to be cutting, plus the 90-degree ledge that we made from the plywood, so everything's nice and sturdy, not going anywhere. So let's make the cut itself. I don't have to put that much pressure now on the track, as the clamp is actually holding the track. So I'm just focusing on the router itself, making sure it goes in a nice and smooth motion. As you can see, you know, it works absolutely fabulous. On top of it, obviously you can attach some dust extraction to your router. For the purpose of this video, I just didn't want to show that, as it would get in the way a little bit of the video. But as you can see, super simple and it works great. And as you've seen, it works absolutely fine, no issues at all, really stable, 90 degrees, it's quick to set up. I think it's a very good solution. However, a few years ago I've actually done something very similar using a T-track rather than a saw track. Okay, so I'm going to drop a link to that video down below in the description of this video if, for example, you do not have a saw track. Now you can use anything as a track, just a general idea. For me, this will give me the quickness of setup, plus the tracks themselves, they've got the special anti-slip material underneath, and to be fair, it works fairly good. However, obviously it's always best to clamp it down to make sure everything's 100% nice and stable. So why did I decide to do another one for a saw track? Very simple reason, it's just that few seconds quicker to use, as now I've got this 90-degree ledge over here from plywood, so I'm always gonna get straight cuts. With the T-track you just had to mess around a little bit, plus I can make any length I want with the saw track up to 2 meters, as that's how many tracks I've actually got, whereas the T-track, it would be very difficult to get a 2-meter T-track. I think you know where I'm coming from. And this is just a little bit more stable. So I hope you enjoyed this little project here, and maybe it inspired you to do something similar or exactly the same. It proves it works. It will definitely do the job I needed to do in my future projects. Now, if you want to see the version with the T-track, I'm just going to leave a link over here as well, so you can go ahead, click on it right now, and hey, I'm going to see you on that video. Take care.